Hey guys, so I'm finally trying this thing. It's made by Eastwood internal frame coating with zinc. The issue is this tubing is so small, which I kind of understand because you would waste half the paint in it. But it's got so much memory. They packed it in this little Ziploc bag, and this thing does not. I try to warm it up and stuff. It's just like a coil. So as soon as you try to shove it inside of the frame, I'm kind of working with one hand here. But as soon as you try to shove it inside the frame, it always does. I don't know if you can see this, but it does this kind of stuff. It sprays in one little spot. You almost have to put this thing right in the center of the frame and the tubing, which I guess their idea when they sell this stuff, you put it through your holes and you kind of spray it like this all the way around. But on a tubing like that, in case of you know, these trucks here that have all these tubes between the rails, you have to keep this thing right in center because this thing sprays like a cone. So I'm not sure exactly what to do here because it just and like I said, this thing's got so much memory. See how this thing is, and you can't straighten it. It just springs like a rubber band. So I have to attach this thing to some kind of straight rod. Now in this case I have straight tube, but then all the other tubes, especially my towing tube that I really worry about rust inside, it's got all the bends and stuff. And this one, obviously, as you can see, it's flat in here, so I just can't put a piece of rod in there to hold this thing in the center. Even with the rod, you can't even see if it's up or down, if you're touching the sidewalls or anything. I just don't know how to use this thing. I bought 3 cans of this stuff for 60 bucks. I definitely want to use it. Let me try to attach something to this little tube to maybe at least holding it straight and somewhat in the middle of the tube, so when I spray cone I can kind of cover everywhere. I shook this can pretty hard for a long time, but just in case. Here goes nothing. Let me try to do the other side. I'm spinning it to try to get it everywhere. Okay, first can is empty. I'm not going to tape using all 3 cans, but you get the idea. Okay, so I just put a piece of cardboard so this is black so the tubes don't get too hot. It's about 65-70 degrees outside, so I don't want to bake this paint. As you can see inside, I got it pretty much all over, as much as I could. As you can see, I got this stuff oozing out. Well, here it's dripping on the ground. As you can see here in the shadow, it's just pouring out of everything, every little hole. Okay guys, so this is 24 hours later. It's all dried up, and you can see on the inside, every single tube, I got it everywhere, 100% coverage. Now of course I had to attach this nozzle tubing thing to a straight rod and flexible rod, and then I had to spin it. See, the issue is, as you can see from the video, as I was spraying this thing, it comes in 4 jets like that, just like you see in here, the spot. So when you go in, and if you go straight up and down, all you're gonna have is 4 spots painted. So you have to spin the nozzle around, and that's what I was doing as I was shoving in and out, especially on a second coat, because I put 2 coats on this thing. I was spinning the nozzle constantly to make sure I get full coverage, and you can see, I'll show you from both sides, all tubing. Every tube, well, this one you can't see far because it's got the bend in there. So is this one, same thing, it's got a bend in it, but it's this one is straight, as you can see, and it's got a little bend in it. Let me see if I can get the light in there, but let me go on the other side. I got 100% coverage except the edges, and I couldn't come out all the way to the edges because, as you can see, what happens, it was spraying my frame on the outside. So I have some of the spots here on the edges and on the other side where I didn't cover really well, so I'm going to use chassis saver. Sorry for the light. I'm going to use chassis saver to cover these spots, and then I'm going to use rubberized undercoating here to kind of cover the green stuff to make it pretty. Not that it matters, it's just the frame. But anyways, that's the other side of the straight tube. Here's the other straight tube. As you can see, I got 100% coverage everywhere. I don't know where to shoot this light to make it show how it looks on the inside, but very impressed with this product. Except, you know, the nozzle is just not perfect, but it still works great. So here's the other side of the bend tube at the end. And like I said, this stuff was dripping out here everywhere, out of all the holes. This stuff is it's just, I don't know if you can see underneath, it was pouring out of every hole, which is fine. And I used up 3 cans and I did 2 coats. And like I said, the only spot I didn't get is here towards the edges, where I just couldn't do it because I would just cover this whole freaking thing on the outside with this green stuff. So I'm gonna touch this up with a chassis saver and then paint it black, you know, as far as I can reach. So that's it. And remember, with the nozzle, let me show you the nozzle problem. So here's the setup I used. You know, I took this coil kind of spring rod. This is for unclogging your sink and toilets and stuff, you know, all the plumbing. It's the one that it's got a little handle, a little crank, and you go in there, and the tip is kind of a crazy looking shape, and it goes in there and digs in there and unplugs your plumbing. So that's what I used. It's pretty flexible, but it's still rigid enough to shove in inside of these tubes, especially the ones with the bend. And what I had to do is, basically, when I was shoving in and out, the end here is bent because I was using this thing to clean the tubes, and I was spinning it in and out, in and out, in and out, like that, constantly spinning it, because, like I said, these jets were shooting in 4 locations. So I had to spin it to make sure I have it all over the tube inside and not just 4 streaks. So that's the only downfall of this whole system. Basically, you have to attach it to something, because this thing has, this crazy tubing has so much memory. And the reason for that is it's coiled up like that in a bag inside of the box of this paint, and then when you know, obviously remove it out of the bag, it just freaking got so much memory. And I tried to put this thing in hot water to straighten it, and it just wouldn't work. You have to attach it to something straight. If it wasn't for that, I would give this thing 5-star rating, but I'm gonna give it 4.5 because you have to kind of modify it and spin it to make it work really well. I forgot to mention the PVC pipe. If you watched the beginning of my video, I was using it, and basically I was using it on the 2 straight pipes that are going across the frame rails, because you got 2 bent pipes and you got 2 straight pipes. And then straight pipes, I actually shoved this little thing that I created, that's for the unclogging your septic, and I shoved it inside the PVC pipe like so the nozzle sticks out on one end, and on the other end I still had enough length to attach the spray bottle, and I was able to actually hold it rigid. Actually, I was kind of guiding it right on the edge of the hole, and always tried to keep that in the center of the entire hole. So that's it. That's my review of the Eastwood internal frame coating with the zinc. Thanks for watching.